so it's going live now.
Okay, let's see.
Now you should see something. Yes. Hopefully.
I've got sound.
Very simple. Is that care system of 2025. You design the 2025. So we start with basic checks.
There we go.
Can you see it?
Yeah. All good.
This is basically if someone online asks questions, you can see it here.
Okay.
Come in on the channel.
Perfect. Okay. I'm ready to go when you are.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you want to?
Good evening, everyone. You are very welcome here this evening to the Long Room Hub and here to this evening's event for Probe. So, as I'm sure you know, Probe is a once annual event that we host in Trinity College, and it showcases some of the incredible research, science research that we have ongoing here at Trinity. So this evening you are joining us for a panel, although it is going to be a little bit more interactive than we might have told people originally, but that's okay, that's okay. We just need to make sure that everybody's okay with this is going to be live streamed, and the stream will be available immediately after the panel is held. If you don't want to be in it, possibly hide under the table, because it is a 360-degree video angle here, so when people are watching us, and you can actually go on, if you go on to YouTube right now and go into Heliosphere Social, you can see whatever, it's actually very, very cool. Kevin's going to talk to us a little bit about Heliosphere, the program that it's running, which you can tilt the camera angle and look at everything. So it is a true 360-degree event. So this evening we are going to be asking one of, well, not quite a burning question right now, but surely what's going to be a burning question in the near future. With the rise of automation, with the rise of AI, we're becoming extremely focused on digital technologies. So we're going to be looking at the question, would you have a relationship with a robot if it was designed to be the one? But there is something of a subtext to this evening, and I'm going to get Kevin explain what that is in terms of Heliosphere.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Obviously, this is a science demonstration or a science experiment, so you're all part of the science experiment, which tries to, as a vision, tries to create unbiased debates. So the entire idea of the heliosphere, as you can see, is a circle, so a sphere, which is highly inclusive. So it's meant to create debates or assist debates that are highly inclusive, transparent, and unbiased. And unbiased is a really hard one to do because we're all very easy to influence by speakers, by opinions, by topics, and the machine, which is this thing here, the machine is very hard to emotionally influence. That'll just take the facts, basically what is said, is the voice male or female, or men talking more than women, is the voice with a certain sentiment, is the debate off topic, is the debate biased, and so forth. So basically this is the start of the story. As you can see, there's a very simple visualization on the back. This will only trigger the keywords. Basically it'll count the amount of keywords that we use. The vision is to obviously create a full, what we call debate analytics, so not to guide or in any way to control the debate, but just to assist the debate or just to give you an overview. And the nice thing, or where this comes from, is we're all in the era of fake news, so this also has the capability to do fact checks. So if somebody sits here and says, 2 years ago I said you're going to get such and such, then this thing can check and say, no, you didn't say that 2 years ago. So basically this idea of trying to avoid fake news by building or basically not avoiding fake news but battling against fake news by bringing debates back into communities and to create actually face-to-face debates. So we specifically picked a topic this evening that hopefully splits you in two, or at least creates kind of two camps that that somehow allows us to understand as a research project a bit more how to guide this technology towards unbiased debates. I can't guarantee that it will actually work. Like, it's a very tricky kind of setup. Maybe the keywords won't change, but I guess you all get the idea. It is recorded, so basically what we say is recorded. It's not recorded who says what. The voices are not recorded. It's a speech-to-text synthesizer, so we can talk about that too in details if you're interested in that kind of technology. It just takes what's spoken into that microphone, runs it into a text file, and just like in a Word document, just punches out the words, and just in a row, and then just doesn't know who spoke, what voice spoke, and so forth. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the concept, because we're kind of doing a lot with the Science Gallery as well, with their book club and different events with the same setup. And as it evolves, we're going to do more and more of these, and Gillian was involved in one of them already as well. But for now, I guess we focus more on the topic, and then if you're interested, obviously, we can also talk a bit more about the science behind this debating idea.
Thank you, Kevin. So Kevin Coydle is a researcher in ADAPT. We also have, where's Nish? Oh, Nish is here. Nish, would you like to join us here at the table? Nish is a research engineer with ADAPT, and my name is Gillian, and I work in Tangent, the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Centre here in Trinity. So innovation is something that I'm deeply immersed in. So before we get started with the debate, let's just take that question as a standalone. Would you date a robot if it was designed to be your one? Who says yes?
What?
Okay, 2. Excellent. Okay, so stay here. Would you like to come and join us at the table? Come on, it's only a small audience.
Well, just to motivate it a bit more, like we maybe talk about what the one actually means. I mean, maybe people are just thinking a robot. Maybe it's just we can motivate it a bit more to sway a couple of views onto the side.
We're really nice. You will come up and join us actually. We're really nice. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot in there to unpack, really. I mean, you take a question like that, and straight away it's everyone's attracted towards the robot, you know, because that's the sexy, shiny piece of the sentence. But okay, the one. Does anyone want to hazard a definition of what the one could mean? Just what do we accept to be the one in?
Well, it's your perfect person, maybe. You know, that you want to have.
The one. The perfect one. The perfect one.
That's the problem. Perfection doesn't exist. So if you find the one, that perfect machine or person, in the long term, I don't see actually that's going to work. Because perfection is just not realistic.
Well, how many people believe in the one? Is there such a thing as the one? And again, it's not a right or wrong answer. This is all down to it.
I think that actually it is, even that we know that perfection doesn't exist, unconsciously everybody is looking for something that can match in 3 ways, like mentally, physically, and sexually. And I think that that's what we are looking in a person. We didn't even know it. What are we looking for? And that's the adventure of still falling in love and find the right person or the one.
So, kind of, from a theorist's point of view, that the idea of the one goes way, way, way back to Plato, the Platonian opposite halves. So Plato believed that our souls cut in half, and somewhere out there, that your soul is only a half, and that your destiny in life is to go out and search for the perfect second half to your soul. And that idea of the one has evolved from there. So it kind of seems like no one believes necessarily in the one, as in the human physical form. Is
But
that
then
right?
there is also the next question: is only one the one, or it could be many the one?
But it's the one with all the imperfections as well. That's what makes the relationship with a human more valuable. You know, it's the imperfections, it's the complications. You know, you could have a robot that just is perfect, and you can program it to exactly the way you want it. You're just going to be bored. That's why people go on adventures.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So what we're saying is that we would.
Because adding
And
to
I
his
need a few
point,
people on my side of the camp.
I mean, adding to his point, as a person, as a human being, I guess you would keep evolving, but the robot, not sure, would necessarily be designed to kind of evolve with you. So that kind of changes the impression or the idea or the definition of the one, I think.
Yeah.
Because in a relationship, usually 2 people kind of evolve together, they kind of grow together. So, yeah, I think
So what we're getting at is, this is a really complicated question, Karen.
But why could
Really
the machine not
complicated question.
become or do that?
Well, this is the thing. So when we're talking about the one from a human perspective, what we want is the perfect imperfect person.
Yeah.
That's essentially what we're saying. I want.
You want an inbuilt amount of error, or perhaps reprogram it in some way. You can press a reset button and it's a new random generator pattern that completes something new that you can do before.
So we want a human with a random generator error button, a reset button.
Yeah.
Go back to factory settings every few months when things are just not going. Yeah, absolutely.
Isn't one of the big issues around the one at odds with the idea of design? That the one is something that you find that's out there. If there is such a thing as the one, it has to be out there, and there has to be an element of contingency, and there has to be an element of serendipity to it, and there has to be an element also, most importantly, of choice, so that the person who is the one who happens to think that you're the one as well. There's a reciprocity and an element of choice. So designing the one is very, very different from that encounter with somebody who chooses you as you choose them.
It's a really lovely philosophical way of looking at it. But it is. It's that element of choice. But just to come back to Kevin and to say, you did say that you would have a relationship with a robot who was designed to be the one. Could you just tell us why?
The question was, would I date someone? And that's different than the one. And by dating, coffee.
So you'd go out for coffee with the robot, but you wouldn't have a relationship with the robot who was designed to be your one.
That's a different question, of course. I'd like to hear someone else's answer.
Kevin, you
is
said
it not?
yes.
Is it not like? Okay, I'm just going. Again, I'm alone. Am I still alone? Like, is it only you?
No, I'm not. I'm further on your side.
I mean,
actually.
the niceness about this is as well. You can just you can get the serendipity by just resetting a thing every evening. You can just run different algorithms. You can basically. It doesn't have to be the concept of the person that you train. You can have different personalities. You can have switches in the algorithms. You can basically
Let's take a step back. In terms of where does AI stand right now in terms of replicability against human behaviour? How far into that spectrum are we right now?
very far away from it.
Very far away from it. And what's stopping us? What's the big stumbling block? Like, where's the gap right now?
Yeah, well, there might be other researchers in the room, and you can definitely correct me or add to it, and you maybe as well. The big problem is domain specificity, so we call that narrow AI. So at the moment, AI is very much focused on tasks that are very easy to replicate, and that's how we model it. So if we take the idea of the self-driving car, there's a certain amount of functions that the car has to produce or has to conduct in a rather controlled environment, such as traffic lights, there's pedestrians, there's bikes, and so forth. So these tasks are specific to a certain rationalization of the environment. So the situational awareness of the AI at the moment is only specific to a task, and only to one type of task or one type of domain. And we humans are really good at switching. Like we can have coffee and check our emails, and at the same time have a chat with someone at the same time. Hey, how's it going, John? And have a whatever, and then whatever else we can just switch really fast, and that's something that AI can't do. Because it is basically AI at the moment is just a simulation of previous behavior. Hence, it needs a replication of a certain behavior, and we humans are very hard to replicate. It's very random what we do mostly.
So right now, if we were to date a robot right now, it would be a very task-oriented, responsive or unresponsive robot that would only have a limited number. We would only be able to respond to questions that we ask it, as opposed to
it would be simulated. That's basically the word. But I mean, you could have a robot like if you really want to partner that. And I used that example earlier on. But if you really love Liverpool, say as a soccer fan, and your partner just doesn't, and you're like really lonely watching your Liverpool match, and you're just sitting there, and you would love to have a partner who loves Liverpool. That's domain specific. So you could get a robot that really loves or emits that kind of enthusiasm for that game, and would give you analysis and so forth. It would really cook really well, or would really kind of do specific things in your household very well. So that's possible.
Yeah.
But the beauty, obviously, in a human is that we're quite cracked or incomplete or whatever it is. So that's something that's very hard to model. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's very hard.
I'm just going to take that. How appealing does that sound, having an automated companion for certain tasks where perhaps your own partner isn't interested in it? You know, what would it be like having something you can take out of the wardrobe, put beside you, and have genuine interactions with?
It doesn't have to be physical. If you watched, I'm sure some of you have seen the movie Her. That's just an operating system. That's just a voice.
How weird is that movie?
Yeah, it's a really nice movie, and the actor is really good, and basically the protagonist falls in love with this voice, knowing it's an operating system. It doesn't have to be an embodiment.
But he looks
Embodiment
very
is-
lonely.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
But how is that different then? I mean, we have digital tools. I mean, it's a whole thing now that there's this subculture. You watch TV and you live tweet it. You know, that's... How is having a robot companion or software or, you know, a digital tool different to being able to interact with lots and lots of different people all over the world at one time?
Well, there's you know, Tinder or Facebook and Instagram. Like, people go on Instagram and they're putting their best selves up. Everyone's telling them how great they look, and it's all good feedback most of the time. And if you get a negative feedback, you know, it's not good. You know, it's this loop of just relaying good things where the world's not good. It's filled full of, you know, bad and good. But if you have that machine and you can program it any way you want, the beauty of having a relationship is figuring it out with someone. You know, getting them in with your hobbies, they get you in with yours. You know, it's like...
Yeah, that's a valid point. I would say, though, at the moment, there's research that goes against that. Like, we have this phenomenon, it's starting to be called the Tinderization of relationships. So, basically, you go onto a social media-based dating app, and you date someone, and the first problem that comes up, which you're saying is beautiful, is, screw that, I just swipe on.
Yeah.
So with that scenario, and that's my argument a little bit on this side of the camp, with that scenario, we have technology that is already turning us or changing our behavior into this machine-like scenario. So we're swiping partners every time we hit a problem, which is the same as give me a robot and I'll just change the robot algorithm every evening.
But that's exactly it, because like so science as a whole, like, so science is a bell curve. It's both good and bad. It can be used for immense good, and it can, you know, has detrimental effects on people. You know, people have severe depression now and anxiety. They're on Instagram or are swiping, and people are picking the best people, you know, really in reality. And then, you know, it's all sort of like, it's easy to just go, you know, and not give someone a chance and find them beautiful things.
It is. It's also, I was reading a really interesting paper the other day that was showing that if you swipe right or swipe left, you are significantly more likely to do the same thing to whoever comes up next. That we're programming our brains into this, like you say, that very disposable approach to humans when we view other people through technology. So it's skewing the way. So then it comes back to that point that if technology is morphing, evolving the way we see people, why then couldn't robots, when we get there, be the perfect replacement for that?
Like, I'm just going to say, coming back to a different platform, and especially based on my experience, I'm not from here, and the only contact that I have with my family is through WhatsApp. And in some points, and in some ways, we are starting to be in some robotic personalization, because I was speaking today with my friends, and we were saying, like, we prefer to say things and experiences and share with it based in a voice note. Or just sometimes yesterday I was shopping and speaking with both my parents, and I was just feeling the companion. Even though they weren't physically here, I was like literally sharing part of my life. So I would say that definitely so many people, lonely or not lonely, if they found a companion, a friend, or whoever that is, definitely some of them, they will accept it. Because it doesn't have to be relationship just in a lovely point of view. Companion can have different things.
So you're saying that you need that human element, that companionship,
Yeah.
that is human. Is everyone aware of the new Google had released, it was earlier on this summer, and they have this incredible recording of somebody, it's a robot, that calls a restaurant and makes a booking, and the person at the other end has literally no clue that they are speaking to a robot. It's absolutely fascinating. So and we do have this, and we know that in this digital age of technology that isolation and loneliness are becoming a really, really big problem. There is, for the first time, there is a minister for loneliness in the UK. Loneliness is one of the big problems that we're facing. So it now looks like there could be robot voices to replace the human voices.
We could eradicate loneliness. That's my argument.
Well, this is the dichotomy. This is where we're seeing as we get further and further into the technological age, further into digitization, it's this paradoxical increase in loneliness. So is a robot going to solve that?
That's because I think loneliness is also kind of tied back to the fact that you need a human beside you. The fact that you have robotic voices to help you, and the fact that they're going to help you eradicate loneliness. The word loneliness in itself kind of embodies the fact that you need a human being either right beside you, or maybe on a phone call or a video call or something like that.
I don't think loneliness is about that. You can be surrounded by people and feel lonely anyway. So in this case, even if you have that companionship and other voice talking to you or going through moments, you don't have that kind of connection that makes feel someone belong or just be with someone.
But otherwise, exactly what it would be, like something that it will literally study you or being part of you and just literally sharing with you. And you just don't know what is in the other half. It could be something physically or just the voice or whatever. But if you have something in there that can just replace that feeling, you will have someone that you're literally sharing, and at some point will be like in the same way that you are doing WhatsApp with your friends and your family.
I agree.
So definitely,
Relationship is a two-way thing. So you're gonna share with the robot. What is the robot gonna share with you? Because it's gonna be programmed to whatever you're gonna say to it, to train, to whatever. So it wouldn't have their own experiences, their own memories to share with you. So it's just like.
But it would have the readout of all your Facebook activity, all your WhatsApp, all your emails, all the documents you've ever written. If you have diaries, all your diaries, maybe poems, whatever defines you as a person, it would have all that. And it could do a lot of interesting things.
Christina. So one of the researchers that Kevin works with, Christina was on another panel that I was doing last week, and Christina does amazing work with deep data and algorithms. And Christina said that she had to get off all social media in 2011. She said, "Nope, I'm done," because she knew too much about the algorithm. She said that working with those algorithms and working with that data, she found that she understood way more than she ever wanted or needed to about people. And that's a human looking at all of this data. It is very feasible. I think it's fair to say, isn't it, Kevin, that we're not that far off having AI that would be able to take all of the data that it can glean, that it can scrape off the internet about somebody, and make some really reasoned guesses and informed guesses about what their likes are, what their future is going to encompass, predict and be able to respond.
And again, this is not an interview, so you can, if anybody.
Do we have any other?
I'm just very passionate about. I'm the only person on the yes, I'll take a robot side. That's why I'm speaking a lot. So if there's more on the robot side, then please speak.
You're going to be bloody up that far.
Sentiment is going up. It's a machine. But basically, there is a phenomenon like this because of the. What I see a lot is the whole. At every supermarket now, you have to check out the grocery yourself. At every airport, you have to go through a certain sequence to check in your case and everything. So it's actually, because the machines are not smart enough to adapt to us, we have to become more robotic and adapt to the machine. So because they're task specific, and it's the same with a lot of the social media stuff. It's the same with a lot of the digital things around dating. We start to adapt our behavior to the way the machine needs it, because the machine is domain specific. And that's just the thing that could happen with my robot, because I might become a bit more robotic, because I want to relate to this robot, and then I'm going to start to, I'm just going to start to adapt to it as well, because you just said it yourself, it's a two-way road. So I will become more robotic a little bit as well.
I'm just going to push it back onto the audience there, maybe a voice that we haven't heard. Most of the people said that they would not want to date and or have a relationship with a robot that was designed to be the one. Does anyone want to tell us why? What's the problem? Why not?
it's just kind of lacking that life spark, wasn't it? Because if you look at your, like, I think we're putting too much emphasis on communication and that your relationship with somebody is about what you talk about and your interests. But say, if you take your relationship with your dog, you don't talk about anything, but there's a bond there. Or even like just with, like, say your mother when you're a baby, you're not talking about something, but there's still a bond. And like if you take a person who has a fake leg, or is like, you know, like that kind of theory that you could have a person who's born human, but through circumstance all of their physical entities are replaced with a robotic part, but they'd still be human because they're just an essential life essence there you can't define. Does that make sense?
It does completely. Anyone else got any comments about that?
I think it also makes it a bit more lonely that you have just, let's say, a robot sitting next to you, and that you are alone speaking with a robot, or you are expressing yourself and you have like nobody else. And I think, like, for me, as an example, it would be like more drastic kind of feeling that you are just you, there's nobody else, it's just me and speaking and she saying.
And what if there was a physical presence there?
It's kind of unreal, like kind of, I could talk just to myself, like but it would be fine. Even need a robot.
Because it's really, the lines are a little bit blurred on that one because, so I was at one stage, I was a manager, the education manager down Science Gallery, and this time last year we had a show on called Intimacy, and it was all around human interactions and communication and how people spoke to each other and interacted with each other. And one of the exhibits that we had was a robotic cat. It sort of sat there, but you could brush it and it would purr and it would meow and it had very soft fur. And studies have found that in certain situations, like in care homes, that having even a teddy or a robotic cat, even with limited interaction, can help to stave loneliness. That it's almost like there's an acceptance that this is a robot, but it's what I've got and I'm going to do something with it. You know, that we're quite malleable in that regard.
But that's neurological. I mean, you talk about people with dementia, you know, who are not, like I work in a care home myself, I work in a hospital. So there's a lady who has this dog. She loves it. I mean, loves that dog, you know, and it breeds and stuff like that.
We had somebody there in the back. Did you want to share something?
Yeah, I don't think there is a strict delimitation between humans and robots, or kind of in the future. It's more like a fusion, and I think we can be better with technology. So it's more like how can we use technology to improve ourselves to kind of be better people and better partners. That's how I think about it.
Mish, you work in data engineering, essentially, isn't it?
Data science.
Data science. Yeah. Do you think that there is a general sense, do the general public, is there an underestimation of just how much data we have commanding our lives, driving our lives, pushing our lives? Do we underestimate that? Do we sort of tend to...
I don't think people do that anymore, but maybe back in the day, yes. But I think people know the amount of data that's being gathered at this point.
I mean, how much? Where are all the opportunities for data gathering on a day-to-day basis?
Websites, your social media interaction, your Facebook, talking right now. So an example would be, I was at lunch with my colleague today, and I was just talking to him about this Indian comedian who's going to visit Dublin. And I just took his name. So he's called Veer Das, and he's visiting Dublin on 28th of November. 2 hours later, I was just checking my Instagram and I had a sponsored content from Veer Das. So that's the kind of data collection we're talking about. We have that.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not sure about the kind of stories that robot can share with you. So when he was talking about the fact that he's going to have all our data and everything, but when you kind of date a person or when you share a bond with somebody, you kind of expect them to bring something new to the relationship, if that makes sense. And I'm not sure if that's going to be able to be there. If that's there, that's a great thing to happen, because that's how things can nurture, and you can also form a bond, I think. So yeah.
I think a lot of people already have found their one in robots already. I think there's a lot of very lonely people out there who are actually quite happy with their, rubber companion, who they may have lived with for 10 years or something. I think for a lot of people it's just a matter of how good is the design, how convincing is it, how good is the architecture behind it, the program. I think the amount of people who would be happy to have that person will grow and get bigger as technology improves and we understand things a little bit more.
I mean, we're also talking about this in quite a fluffy, romanticised, love is the most amazing thing in the world. I mean, is there anybody in the room who's never had a bad breakup? Breakups suck.
But that's what makes it grow, isn't it?
Go away out of that. Now, listen, if we had the choice as human beings, is there any one of us who would actually honestly say, you know, I mean, okay, maybe there's great romantics in the room and there's poets and artists who strive and thrive on the heartbreak and the loss of sense and etc., etc. But how amazing would that be if we were told that we could have a robot designed specifically with our needs in mind, and that we would never have to break up with somebody again, that we would never experience heartache? I mean,
but that's like travelling and travelling for everything's perfect. You go to travel because it's not perfect.
Travel doesn't break my heart. Travel doesn't make me
if you
eat
got
like 3
into it-
cartons of ice cream, you know, nightly for about 2
You got
months.
into some sort of incident travelling and then you survive it and then you come back and you're like, that was amazing. You can't believe it, you know?
It becomes a story later on.
It does become a story. But I mean, that's the light-hearted. But, you know, let's say we have, you know, we've got robots. What about the loss of domestic violence? What about the loss of abuse? What about the loss of divorce and painful situations?
Pedophiles gone up through the roof because they're on computers and stuff like that. It's gone like, and would they have done that stuff would they have committed them crimes if they hadn't got the internet?
Interesting enough, the data is showing us that we don't have any more of those types of people now. It's just that we know more about them. There's the same number of those situations. Yeah, I think we have to be a little bit careful going down that route. Just, did I see somebody? Yes.
Well, I mean, maybe to come back to the previous point, but that wouldn't necessarily be very good if you did have a situation which you had a partner that was perfectly designed, because that wouldn't necessarily challenge you as a person, and it wouldn't present any opportunities for self-development. Now, I know what's being said here is that, you know, you could see drops in domestic violence, things like that, but there could be other problems that could just manifest themselves in different forms. Like, for instance, if you have somebody that just agrees with you all the time, then you are likely to indulge in negative traits, negative components, and that could lead to more negative forms of development along the line. And if you have an accomplice in the form of a partner, then you could just have issues manifest themselves in different ways.
Much like the Republican Party.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you just have somebody who just nods their head and agrees with you all the time, then that's not going to challenge you in order to change or to improve.
And Kevin had a really interesting idea around a reset button. That, you know, that there would be, or we were talking about having some kind of inbuilt imperfection system whereby, you know, and that's the thing where, to come back to that idea of perfection, and this is what we were talking about earlier, we sort of collectively agreed that the one, if you want to accept that idea, is finding the perfect imperfect person. Mm-hmm. So why, let's say if the research was there, why can we not make a perfect imperfect robot? Surely that would be...
It's the element of surprise, I guess, right?
I think there's also a question of like kind of control, so you can like quickly like shut down the robot and like, I don't know, throw it in the cupboard whenever it's like...
I mean, we can't do that with people?
That's just so good.
You shut up.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you, go on.
Yeah, and I don't think it's kind of an equal relationship.
I mean, I feel if it's designed for saying the negatives, if it's designed for having that data in them, you know, collective data, the AI has this collective data where they can respond on the negatives, like you are actually doing the wrong, like it should be done this way. Like in that sense, if that data is already in it, like I would prefer that more than a person, because you know, the person could be like, with my experience, I've seen person totally against it. You know, if I might be 10% right, but the person is totally against it, 100%, that's not going to happen. Like, why is it not going to happen? You have to tell me an example. Maybe if that robot is designed to tell me strategically why am I wrong, then probably there are chances for having that person beside me, the robot beside me.
Yeah, I mean, surely if there was the power to have... Sorry.
No, just... so you would say yes, you would swap?
Yes.
There we go. Anybody else?
You're drawing
Anybody
them in,
else here?
Kevin. You're drawing them in. But
Well,
I think
it's a
that's
debate.
Really, no, that's
I'm trying to. It's like
I think that's
two of
really
us now.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I'd date.
Ah,
I'd date.
here we go.
I
4.
wouldn't date. Yeah, I wouldn't commit to a lifetime immediately. So
4 of us.
Yeah.
And one at the back.
5. No. Yeah. 3, 4, 5.
Well, I'm divorced, so.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. So I think that there's, and it's interesting what's coming out, because there was that lovely point about design and the element of can you just distill that again? What you were telling us about the sort of the philosophy behind we really want to strive for.
Yeah, I was saying that there's a serendipity and an element of chance involved in meeting the right person, but more importantly, the element of reciprocity and choice.
Yes.
That they choose you as you choose them, and that's what makes it seem like this is, the relationship where you found the one or the right person or something like that. That a robot wouldn't choose you, like
Horrible to say.
you control them, you own them. It's a consumer.
That's a design question. You could design them that they have to choose you.
Don't want it.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
It's
getting
just
rejected
design.
by a robot, there are limits. There are limits to how much I could take in this world. I mean, really.
Well, that's a lovely thought. That'd be very.
Let you work on
You're
that
not
one.
my-
I'll
you're
let
not
you
my
work on
type.
that one. But I think that's gorgeous, that serendipitous and the aspect of choice. And I think there's also that gorgeous point about that human element. And I think that that's something that we have a tendency to forget, that when we're interacting with human beings, so little of it is the barefaced communication of it. That there is this whole neurobiological and physiological response. So, I mean, what would it be like dating a robot? How would we... It's a really difficult one, because on the one hand, I think we could program them in such a way that they would challenge us. Or I don't necessarily think we're talking about somebody who nods and smiles at everything that we say. I think that's...
That's why hair is perfect, because they are also connected through internet. So you can learn a lot of things, and they can challenge you, and they can be in debates and things like that. Because, at some point, I think that everybody agrees, part of the most exciting and part of being in a relationship is that the other person challenges you and you grow up as a person. So that would be like a part of the internet that can feed the operating system, robot, or whatever that we wanted to call it, and at some point you can have that kind of interaction and grow up in some way.
Well, this is very much in the AI world. We have something which is called a target function. So everything we do in AI or machine learning is a rational function, basically a maximization of this target function. So if you have a bot that automatically buys stock based on what the current US president says in his speeches, then the AI or the machine learning engine is designed to maximize profit. So there's a target function. So the question for the robot in our debate is, what's the target function? And I think that's the same for humans. So if we're dating someone, what's the ultimate goal? Is it procreation? Is it the union and the fluffy feeling of being timeless or being in love or whatever? What is it that and then if we're moving off the target function, why do we split up and then find someone else? What's the... And I don't think we humans know that, actually. Maybe machines can show us, but in the design of the robot, it would be interesting to know what you think does the robot need as a target function to make you want to date it. So I'm still trying to convince you.
I don't think you will be able to just design one target for the robot, because every person is different.
Yeah.
So maybe the target for me is just finding love, for another person just having a child. So I don't know if actually you can...
Yeah, but the robot can adapt. The robot adapts to your needs. It's not like one... That's the thing. It's not like a stat... It's a highly intelligent robot. It's like with the best AI ever. So it can adapt to your needs, but whatever your target function is. It's a very technical term, but and I guess if
could they walk away? Does
the robot
have a choice to say, no, you're not within my parameters, it's acceptable?
Well, that's again rejection.
Again, with the rejection, I'm going to have an existential crisis after this evening's debate. No.
Because if they can adjust and adapt to that target, then ultimately it's just a matter of time and iterations before they can eventually figure out, well, this is the type of personality profile that this person wants, so I will just do that.
Well, yeah. I mean, in what is it, Ex Machina? Did anybody see that? So that's the Turing test, basically. The movie is a great example of iterating an AI to become a human, and at the end, the designer, the Ex Machina kills the designer. So it's like walking away or I'll kill you. Yeah, because she walked away, basically.
Yeah.
There is, in sci-fi, there are those scenarios.
It's like, you know, when you're growing up with your mom, and then you ask your mom, why is the sky blue? Or she hasn't got the answers, and then you have to go, shit, I have to think about things, and I have to think for myself, like, I have to go on an adventure somewhere and be it. But if you have someone who's telling you all the information you need to know, and
So, I have to ask, with the data scientists, how far away is Singularity? So Singularity is the point at which machines and humans attain consciousness, the moment when machines attain consciousness. And it depends who you're talking to, I suppose, but I think it's fair to say it's relatively widely accepted that it is a very distinct reality, but it's the time scale of when it's going to happen is the issue.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So machines are going to achieve consciousness at some point.
Eventually, they will have to, I guess.
Yeah.
You can only have so many humans, I think, and I think robots are going to kind of replace. If you talk about right now, I think, I probably might be moving on towards your side, because if you kind of talk about a robotic partner right now, maybe not, but in the future, probably.
So we'll get in there now, start dating robots sooner rather than later, so that we're the ones who've got the insider knowledge.
Dating, but not a committed.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have to try.
Is there anyone else who might warm up gently to the idea of dating a robot?
Yeah.
Not committing, but dating.
If you're talking about robots having consciousness, then you're not, like, the kind of debate goes out the window a little bit, because I think that what's interesting about it is that you're talking about dating somebody that's not on an equal platform to you, in that sense, and they're programmed to respond to your needs. Whereas in a relationship, you're not interested in them because they're interested in you, you're interested in their own life. So an essential part is them having their own interests and their own things that they do, and you find that fascinating. So if a robot is conscious, it's not actually different from a species, like an orgasm that's natural, you know?
Well, is it though? That's the big question. A robot that has consciousness, it's still a robot.
But if it makes its own choices and it has its own beliefs and desires, isn't like there's nothing that really makes us up besides our beliefs and our desires. Really.
We never defined a robot at the beginning as well, and so we might all be coming at it from a slightly different point of view. If I had access to a robot, yes, Kevin.
But the purpose of the robot would be to be your ideal lover.
Well, it comes back to the target question. Yeah. So if I imagine a robot that has consciousness but ultimately has an inbuilt system, we have capability of a robot with an inbuilt system do no harm. That's to break it right down to its very basis. Is that not essentially the perfect partner? Consciousness, challenge, individuality, choice, all of those things that we've just brought up, except that human essence. But, what's missing? And somebody who would never do me harm.
If a robot acquired consciousness and had all of the sort of intellectual computing power that a robot has, why would they choose us?
Oh yeah, they might just choose on a couple of hours.
Again, with the confidence, I'm not walking out of here not feeling very good about myself at all. But no, it is that's actually a really, really good point. Would they turn around and go, humans are fundamentally flawed to the point of, we really don't have very many redeeming features at this point. We're not.
We do. And
we do to each other. That's the thing, we do to each other.
But the thing about this, the thing about science is as a whole, it's like global warming now. We had all these scientific endeavours, which are amazing by the way, but we have a problem with climate change. Unforeseen, we're going into the abyss, and it's so unforeseen. We just don't know what the effects are on the humans. What will happen? Who knows? What are what are the negatives? I'd imagine there's a lot of negatives. The car, great invention. Everybody wanted one. We all strived for one. We get one now. We have to get electric cars. The planet's going, the ice caps are melting. You know?
They are.
And
they are.
then we want robots. I don't know what we're meant to do. And we want to get rid of humans and have these things that are meant to go conscious. To me, it sounds like a bad idea.
I don't know that we're suggesting that we get rid of humans.
Yeah, but if they're conscious, we haven't got a choice. Humans are so complex, evil and good and beautiful and bad, and we still can't kind of come
Hang on,
to
would the consciousness of robots automatically lead to the decline of humans?
Well, from
Do you
history.
think? What do you think so?
Possibly. I mean, like if they are perfect and in the ways that you described, then it could very well be a case of the singularity could be realized. Or if, let's say, people want to have, like children, like with a partner. Now, again, this is a whole other kettle of fish. But if you could have, if people could even like reproduce with a robot, then you're going to get cyborg-like humans. So I mean, like it could lead to an evolution or a complete change within the nature of mankind.
I mean, I'm reading. I'm a biologist, and I will fight tooth and nail to say that we're never going to be able to mate with robots. That's never, ever, and it's not. But it's not. So we will never be able to combine. Robots, by their very definition, are machines, and in order for humans, as biological entities, to be able to survive, it requires DNA. So we might have facilities whereby we can reproduce with the very, very basics of another human being, but we will not be able to reproduce with robots.
Well, it's sort of, and I'm sorry.
You go ahead.
But I was going to say, but again, like this in part is what are we defining a robot to be? I mean, like I said the term, cyborg, and to a certain extent, we are robots like ourselves. So, for instance, we have phones which we use to communicate with people today. That, in a certain way, we are cyborgs, robots to a certain extent, using these devices or operating them. So, in a certain extent, like there is a melding of man and machine that's already going on already. But I'm saying that you could conceivably, I don't know, like again, this is very much a science fiction scenario, but like the combination of robots, like so let's say stem cells from humans, create a human like with a womb, but maybe machine-like and other components like in the brain and so on, then you could get a complete change like within the nature of mankind. But again, very much a science fiction scenario.
You could. Gavin?
Just a general question, because we only have 10 minutes left. Maybe slowly, I'd love to get some feedback on the debating idea as well while the people are here. I'm not like, I don't know, that we have
on the question of the...
Yeah, no, that we have a few minutes left at the end just to talk about the format of the debate, how
sure.
you felt. Not straight away, I'm just generally saying, conscious of time. How many do we have on the robot dating side?
Yeah, how many people are willing to date a robot now?
Aha!
Yeah.
5, 6, good. 7, 8, 9.
Very harsh.
Good.
I think that's,
I'm going to get to work. We get to work.
But it's unlikely to be something that most of us in our lifetime will be able to do, is it? I mean, to truly date a robot.
I think this idea of a specific target function towards lovability, that's a big word, but a target where a robot is specific, not the conscious, like that was a really good comment, not the like the super consciousness, all these singularity events. That's a really good question on its own as well. But just saying a robot, like in that movie Her, a robot specifically designed as a target function to make you as happy and as in love as possible. That might happen in our lifetime.
So not just her.
That might happen.
I mean, if you've seen Black Mirror, there was an episode in Black Mirror when the partner of this female died, and a robot was sent to her that looked exactly like her partner, and it had all the data, everything that had been done by that partner, and well, he was lifelike. It took one day for him to kind of, for the robot to become active, so to say, and then he was dead.
There's that kind of uncanny valley part of it as well, where somebody could be perfect for you, but there's just something so eerie about that. Like people report that with psychopaths as well, where there's just something off and you don't know what it is, because you do have that animal instinct, whether we're part robot now or not. There's still something that an animal inside you that's going to go, that's not right, I don't like that.
Absolutely.
That death one is really nice. There's a couple of companies that are trying to, if you have a family member that leaves, replicate the chats, because you kind of, let's say you chat a lot with that person, so the bot still chats the same tone that person who's left, so it's basically psychologically easier for you to ease off. You can say goodbye. It's like a digital wake.
Yeah, I think there's an awful lot of AI and automation that's presented to us in a very apocalyptic way.
Yeah.
But there's a significant amount of very much smaller scale stuff that's being done really with human endeavour in mind, and it doesn't get as much press as it should.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about...
Yeah, unless it's like a final comment with the robots, then we just basically, if I could just have a few minutes, your attention for the debating, the core research. Is there anything on the robots before we... Anybody else? No?
I won't stop.
Won't be convinced. So basically, thank you for that event and the debate. I personally felt the debate was very inclusive, which, like, most of you engaged, and it's very interesting to see that, which is the core value or idea of this concept. Obviously, there's a spatial idea. There's an online element that people that are at home can also comment and come in. Now this didn't do what it was supposed to do. It didn't show the keywords, unfortunately. But the good news is we have the text-to-speech file. So if you follow the Heliosphere social channel, I can put the dashboard up tomorrow. What I'm trying to look for is how to design this thing. So, like, do you feel the debate was maybe biased? Do you maybe feel there were certain topics that went off, or like just encourage, not so much the setup of the room, but like as the debate was moving on, did you feel that if the analytics would have shown something like there's way too much this voice or there's way too much people on this topic, like I don't want to preempt this, I'm just generally saying if you would have analytics here that would help you understand more of what was the sentiment in the debate, what were the topics, would that make sense? Would that have created some kind of inclusiveness?
It's
just generally
balance enough, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like people.
Yeah.
So the aim of the Heliosphere research is to present data in such a way that it'll encourage essentially citizen science type engagement, that it's empowering people to become part of the conversation as opposed to just sage on the stage scenarios where we're just being imparted all of this knowledge.
Well, first of all, inclusiveness. So you can see there's no like the three of us sitting at a straight table and you're like behind it and you're sitting there and then you have 5 minutes at the end. Inclusiveness is number one. Transparency, obviously, as well, which is important that we can see each other in the circle and so forth. But the third one is actually the non-bias. So the motivation behind the Heliosphere comes out of distrust in media, or increased distrust in media because of fake news and deep fake, which is the new, more scary part, is where you can see a politician say something really stupid and it looks like the politician, sounds like the politician, but an algorithm has created it. And you've maybe seen a few of those.
But is that not a sign of what's to come in the future?
Exactly. So that's why this is a research project for the future. So basically, if our distrust in media increases, we would, and that's what this project kind of moves into, we would potentially find for political debates, democratic debates, we will go more away from screens because we don't know if we can trust them, and more into face-to-face time, more into town halls and so forth. But then the question is, as a technologist, how can we then, because there's also a distrust in the democratic process and that people are monopolizing panels or speaking too much and so forth, how can we use technology on a more neutral scale to ensure that there's transparency within that debate? Not telling people what to say, but just say, okay, the debate is going off topic, or the debate is now being totally dominated by a certain person.
Do you have directional microphones?
Not yet, but this one, we only have one microphone at the moment. So what will happen in future is that we think about that too, is to use multiple microphones so that we actually know who's speaking as well. Which we can maybe do with the tone of the voice as well.
Yeah, you could say like, section 1 hasn't spoken in 6 minutes, and that might cover like an area or a quadrant or something.
Yes.
But it is the software that is going to manage the debate, or it's going to be like a person that is going to be controlling it?
You mean the analytics itself?
Yeah.
The analytics will be fully automatic. And you can think about like these heliospheres, because they're automatic, they could happen all over Europe at the same time. There could be 100 of them at the same time, and then you could see a summarized dashboard of where the trend is or the opinions are in a certain political direction or not. But you would generally, so basically on a wide scale, you would say this is real-time debate analytics that would help to empower debate and not to control or direct the debate.
So the idea is that the analytics would show in real time who's speaking, how much one person is speaking, and the moderator then would be empowered to be able to gently steer the conversation towards people in the audience or on the panel who have not been included. So it's almost like a feed telling me you're not paying enough attention to this person, or this person is having a little bit too much time. So it's
primarily
the audience have a decision on which way the debate goes in that sort of sense, like democratise the way it goes.
That's one vision. There's another vision, much bigger one behind, which is the whole idea of direct democracy, where we basically think that through technological platforms like these, we might be able to avoid politicians, because politicians are basically just a mediator between us and legislation. So why do we actually need a politician? We could just have platforms like this, vote or debate on a certain topic, and it turns straight into legislation.
You could you could set the question out at the beginning of the conversation, whatever that question is, and then you know that there's a set amount of associated words with those keywords in that said question. So you can, just by analysing the words that are said by whoever's speaking, you'll be able to say this person's way off a red light.
Exactly.
Or fact checking, all these kind of things.
One of the important things you mentioned was bias, and that seems like interesting potential, but both for good and evil, I guess. But if you're able to monitor the conversation, how it flows, and what are the turning points? So not so much sentiment, but the turning points. Like at what point here, what did you say to get people to start changing their minds about dating a robot? What were the influencing points, and were those sentiments, those ideas, those words reiterated? So I'm thinking in terms of linguistic stuff like turn taking, and I don't know, I'm not a linguist, but.
Yes, adding to that, I believe that I think this debate was great, but I feel that actually was all focused in all the positive aspects that I could have.
Yeah.
But what about the negative impacts? Does your research shows any of those? Because I think you should be able to actually put and say to people, would you date a robot if actually you have this negative impact? Actually people can choose, and it's not all about how good it will be.
I mean that's.
Yeah,
that's also absolutely. And I mean there is something really, and again from a research perspective, something to really think about. If this works and this analytics works, and let's say there is a European election and this thing is used all over Europe at the same time, and it does all this, it could be used to predict opinions. Like the machine, the data that's collected, and that's something to be very aware of. The data that's collected could be used to create opinion detection. Like basically you predict that a certain, now everybody was like 80% pro this legislation, and then suddenly it's like, ooh, this is shifting, and then the question comes, why is it shifting? And then again that could be used by someone to influence. There is always that there's always the dark side.
We started out the conversation with no one wanting to date robots, so I was on a mission. I'm the one at fault in that one. It's my bias. Just drive the conversation in that direction.
But any other again, this is very much a research project. So it's as you can see, it's a building side. We do this a lot now with the Science Gallery, and we're going to do more.